Greetings everyone, we're here with a build guide of Life Mjölner done right by Rico, the Juggernaut Marauder build. It is extremely tanky. Just to prove it, I showed you in the beginning of this video when I tanked Shaper Slam. I did that Shaper Slam right to my face like 5 times to just see if I can take it every time, and I just brought one of them in there. It looks like it's close, but he didn't even have Enfeeble on him at that time, so it was not optimal. The clear speed is top notch. Now with new arc, buffed arc, it's actually clear speed is phenomenal. And Discharge, as always, is quite a good boss killer. He has some other builds. You can see here Lightning Strike with the Inquisitor. And let's get into the gear. We're going to start with the gear, then we're going to go to gems, jewels, and then we're going to discuss some of the intricate parts of this build. We're going to go into Perfumes, the skill tree, Ascendancy, and some of the map mods and other things we might encounter during this build guide. The prices of this build is not that high. You can get this going for 1x approximately. And you can go into more. I will not go into the leveling portion of this guide, but most of these pieces are quite cheap. The most expensive one, I believe, is this one, Val's Devotion. We can check right now how much it is. It should not be too much. Well, it was one. I think this is for the non-corrupted one. You can get a corrupted one for about 50-60 CISO. So, the bread and butter of this build is Mjölner. It triggers all your lightning gems in this one. So that is Discharge and Arc in this instance. And it gets triggered for every hit. Obviously these are not hits, so we need something to trigger it. And it's our Cyclone that triggers it. The reason why we use Cyclone is because every spin it hits twice. So it's very easy to hit a lot on one target or many targets a lot of times, which means we're gonna generate stupid amount of discharge and arcs all around us. You can also use other skills, but Cyclone is definitely top notch here. We have Devoto's Devotion, which I highly recommend for a few reasons. We have attack speed, which we want to have as much of as possible. We have a high armor and evasion. We have a lot of chaos rest, which is incredibly good for just this league, or for any league in banner, because in this league we have so many incursions with the high chaos damage. All those shooters that kills instantly on all builds, those are all chaos damage. I cannot recommend this enough. We have movement speed, we have increased dexterity. I mean, this is insane. And if you can get the 40% increased discharge or arc, there's many other enchants you can get. It's fine. It's just a luxury item that I found for like, I think 30C or something. Someone was putting it up for. Next item, we're gonna go to Surfer Frame. It's something that most Juggernaut builds, especially if you want high to all resistances. And as you can see here, we have 84, 83, 83, and that's without extra flasks. And that is extremely high. And because 75 is the maximum otherwise, you can just imagine how much mitigation we have here. And with all the endurance charges, we have just as much on the armor side or on the physical medication. So with this one, insanely good, and plus we have the block chance and all the other goodies that this one has. Let's go to this one also. We choose this one because of Iron Will most of all, because it converts all that. If you look here, we have 5 strengths is equal to 1% melee physical damage. Iron Will makes that into spell damage, which means that all that strength we need to scale because we want to equip the Mjölner actually comes to some use except for life. So it's both life and spell damage at the same time, which is insanely good for this build. And we're gonna leave it to this one now. Kingsguard you do not, I say this again, you do not need a 6-link. It's completely a luxury item, and also getting free green ones here is a nightmare. I used over 1,000 chromatics to get this. So what you want to do is start with a 5-link and just cut out Culling Strike, and that is enough, because when we're playing this build, the mod we want to look at, obviously it has a lot of other mods like high armor, energy shield, and all those, but the one we want to look at is the bottom one. Gain 100 life when an endurance charge expires or is consumed. So right now I have 7 maximum endurance charges and I have 5 discharge per second. That means if I have 7 that blows up at the same time when I use discharge, that is 700 life. That is not leech life, that is instant. That means I get 700 life each time I use up my discharge or my endurance charges. That could be up to, well, 3,500 or something per second, or even more. That is just insane damage. I can show you something here. Let's see. It's prime time now for PoE, so it's a little bit laggy on this server. So when we go in here, and let's see if someone can, and you see my damage goes, or my life goes up and down. So they're all hitting me and I'm blowing up and I'm instantly healing. See, they can't even kill me when I'm, and this is tier 11 with vulnerability on me. Let's see here if we can find some mobs that can actually hit me. These ones. Or not. They're dying by themselves. Hit me. Yeah, anyway, it's gonna hit, and as you can see also the clear speed is just going all over the place here. And we go back. So I want to talk next to how we generate all these all this power and endurance charges. So it starts with this one, Romari Banquet. It has some not as desirable stats. I got one corrupted, which is pretty good. You can see the corrupted mods there, very good. Because we do not want any critical strike chance on this build, that means we have almost no chance of critting at all. So this item says gain a power charge on non-critical strike, which is almost all our times we spin or using any of the other skills. Lose all power charging on non-critical on critical strike. That means we don't really crit on this build anyway. So we're basically only gonna gain power charges with this one. And with the Ineos Eryphony, I don't even know how it's pronounced, you have 25% chance if you would gain a power charge to instant gain up to the maximum number, which is 5 power charges. Plus it has intelligence, percentage to intelligence, and a maximum life, because we are really like an intelligence build on this build. We really want it. High movement speed. Yeah, you need this one. And plus percentage increased damage per power charge. Perfect boost for us. Doesn't cost a lot. Like right now, they're probably 15C or something like that, depending how popular this build is right now. Yeah, 12C. Then next, we also have Ascendancy that will give us more endurance charges and stuff like that. But next we will go to gain an endurance charge when a power charge expires. And because we have power charges coming out of our asses right here, like nothing else, like ping-ponging, basically generating here, and have a chance of getting maximum here, and our discharge is using up those power charges, and we're gaining endurance charges for those. So the synergy here is like insanely good. It's just a circle going around, round, round, round. And we'll always have endurance charges and power charges. And on top of that, with our Ascendancy, chance to gain an endurance charge when you are hit also. 25% chance if you would gain a endurance charge, you also gain up to a maximum. So here again, we have the maximum endurance charges. So we basically, every time we hit an enemy, we will have maximum power charge, maximum endurance charges, will be constantly updating itself every single hit. That means that Discharge will get a lot of bonus damage because it deals whatever you have, fire, lightning, cold, per endurance charge, per power charge, and per frenzy charge. We don't really use frenzy charge. We can disregard the cold damage, which I also utilize in this build. So that I can explain to next. Because of cold damage per frenzy charge, I use cold damage to attacks on my ring here. You don't need this. I use it for the reason I'm using it is because I want to hit elemental equilibrium. Because I have blade vortex here on cost on damage taken, it starts spinning around me and hitting all the bosses and all the harder mobs with cold damage, which means they will be taking 50% less or more damage from all fire and lightning, which means that my discharge and my arc will do 50% more damage, which is pretty neat trick. And next we have final item here. It's gonna be our belt. The one stat you want here, I recommend that you are buying one of these bases and craft it yourself because they can be a little bit pricey to make. Also, this cooldown recovery speed is only end game thing. If you want to spend money, extra money on this or currency on this, you get by so good without this. You can kill Shaper without these luxury items. There's no problem in that. Just if you want some extra fun, something to strive towards. So the one you want to look out for is to have one of these shape belts, and it needs to be item level 84 to craft these. And it needs to have increased cooldown recovery speed. So some nice res, some life and stuff like that would be nice. And increased recovery speed you want over let's see here, 16. And the reason why we want that is that let's see here if I have his chart, is that Rico was nice enough to make one of these optimal charts, and what we want to hit is this one right here. Oops. It's 4.5 cyclone APS. That is in game. If you hold over this one is 0.22, or if you have Path of Building, which I also have, you can see here 4.54, which is plenty. It's over what I need. And then you go over here and you see 15% optimal cooldown recovery. With those two stats, or over these two stats, you will hit 5 times discharge per second. Anything below that and you will hit less. So if you want to be optimal with this build, I recommend those, but it can be a little bit pricey if you not get lucky. Next thing, we're gonna go through the gems. Also, wait first, the flask, we just want something with freeze and a little bit life recovery. We want the wise oak for some extra damage penetration, which is very nice. And if you can balance the two other ones, which I have not, you can actually get less damage taken from both of these and be even more tanky. And ruby flask I'm using because I'm using righteous fire, and I will explain why I'm using it. That it's insanely good for this build. And a seer promise for some extra damage and some extra leech and some chaos resistance. Like I said, chaos resistance is really good in this build. And quicksilver flask or adrenaline for some extra speed. You can replace this flask as you want. There's no real requirement here. Experiment what works for you. So what I want to talk about is discharge and arc, which is our main damage skills. You want to have discharge before arc, something that Rico pointed out to me yesterday. And it is because of, if you have it the other way around, arc can crit, which means that we will lose all of our power charges. So when discharge come around, we cannot do all the lightning damage we needed to do. So it needs to be discharge, elemental focus, and arc, which doesn't matter because I can switch between these as easy as that. So just some fast tips. I've been playing this whole build with Shaper and all the other way around. I had a 50% shot. Obviously I chose wrong, and I did not even know this was a thing, but now when he pointed out, it's kind of obvious. For your main setup here in the chest, you have Cyclone because he spins so fast, Fortify for an extra mitigation, Blood Magic because we have very low mana, faster attack because we need as much attack speed as possible to hit those 5 discharge per second. Life gain on hit, it's always nice to have some extra life gain. And Calling Strike if you have the extra 6 socket. This one is completely luxury, do not need Calling Strike. And if you want to spend an extra, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 Exalt, be my guest and do it. For the helm, we're gonna have cost when damage taken level 1 because we want to proc as often as possible. Increased duration is very important because we want Immortal Call for hard-hitting bosses in case something slips through. I don't. It's a little bit redundant, but and especially for Blade Vortex, because we want blades spinning around us at all time, so we can proc this cold damage and get the 50% extra damage taken to all the mobs around us with elemental equilibrium. For our shield, we have Shield Charge, and this is not in Rico's build, but Shield Charge, and it is, I believe, faster attacks. And he has Leap Slam to jump over ledges, but it turned out that I've never used Leap Slam anyway. So I'm using Shield Charge, Righteous Fire, and faster attack. Righteous Fire is only here because I just wanted it away from my curse setup. So it doesn't gain anything from being linked with these. So here's where also mine built different a little bit. It's curse on hit support. With Vengeance, which basically Vengeance is like an auto trigger, so when you get hit by a mob, it turns around and hit that mob back. It has a 40% chance to trigger the skill when hit, so it will not hit all the time, but on bosses, it will definitely hit them with my curses without using Blasphemy or anything like that, because we don't have mana for that. So I use Enfeeble and Elemental Weakness. Normally you would only use Elemental Weakness for this one, but Enfeeble is a nice, I don't know, extra layer of defense. Like again, is defense on defense on defense, and with the clear speed and everything else, you will never die. It's like almost impossible to die. And for my boots, it's Purity of Fire, Purity of Ice, and Purity of Lightning, and Enlighten Free. Enlighten Free is very cheap this in the beginning because people don't want the Enlighten Free, so they corrupt it and then they sell it up for cheap. So don't worry about the price for this one. All of these give 4% extra additional, and we desperately need the extra resistances because we only have 2 rare slots. So we are really starved for any kind of resistances we can get. So with this, you can see I'm not that far over. Oh, well, I'm pretty well off on this part also. And what else? Oh yeah, forgot to say, you really want to have intelligence on your ring. You need intelligence because, as you can see, we need, let's see here, we need 300 intelligence. And without this 35 at least on your intelligence on your ring, you're not gonna reach it. Unless you go a completely other path in the passive tree. So those are the gem links, and I'm gonna go to just show you my jewels, because that's part of the gear also. I have some 4 mods on all my gear. Here you want to opt for extra resistances and max life. So basically what I'm doing, I set it up here. You want to set it up as like this, and then you just hit search, and you only get the ones that you want. So if you have less money, you take this 4 and make it into a free, and then you get even cheaper gems like 1 alch, and they're still awesome. So, but I'm greedy and I had some extra currency, so I hit 4. And then you can see here, so you can copy this, pause the video and take a look at which ones I'm looking for. Or you can put maximum life and total resistances in a different category, add group and put them in and then put a 2 here instead. That means that it always will search for only gems with these 2 things, or 2 of these stats together, which is very good. And another jewel you want to look for is one of these. It's physical damage, hits taken, lightning damage, and fire damage. That is if you are affected by purity of ice, purity of lightning, and purity of fire. So these are Watcher's Eye from Uber Elder and Elder Fights. So if you can find one with double mod like this one early in the league, now they've gone down in price like crazy, but earlier they were so expensive. That means it's 10 or up to 12% damage that is converted from your physical, which is your weakest area right now. By no means weak, but weakest area, and it's going to convert that into our elemental ones, which are super high, as you can see. That means you're gonna basically take no damage at all from all the physical attacks, which is quite a few in this game. Let's see here. Next area we're gonna go into is, yeah, the reason why I'm stacking a lot of attack speed is because we want to reach those 4.5 attacks per second, and for our 16 cooldown recovery also. And we have Pantheons, or we start with the skill tree. I will link the skill tree. That is, I will link my build in this guide, and you can take a look at it. And yeah, just follow, and on Rico's build guide, which is also in this, also linked in this YouTube video. Just follow his leveling tree. Arc is definitely a good choice these days for the new league, especially to start leveling with. And yeah, just take a look at this, and especially on this one, Intuitive Leap. I did not know how that one was working, but it's working insanely good because you don't need to spec into this, which leaves you a lot of empty nodes that you didn't really need, which means you can spec into other ones. Difference point here, I used 2 curses because I have 2 curses, so I put those points in here. Otherwise you would put it into the attack speed. That's why I have so much attack speed on the jewels, because I needed to offset that balance. So that is why. Oh, someone wants to buy something. We're gonna ignore him for this moment. And we have Pantheons. There's a few different Pantheons we want to go for. I go normally with, for mapping, you could go for Soul of Lunaris, and which means that just gonna take 1% additional physical damage reduction for each nearby enemy, which is gonna be tons all the time because you're shield charging in and you spin. And then you can go for, however you pronounce it, Screwful, 1% additional physical damage reduction for each hit you're taking recently by a maximum of 5. Because you're spinning so fast and running from pack to pack so fast, you're gonna get hit sooner or later, and it's just gonna synergize very well. And if you want to go for hard hitter bosses like Minotaur and T16, Soul of Solaris is very good, or if it's any other big hitting boss, because it's if there's only one nearby enemy. So for Shaper example, or any of those hard hitting bosses, you can just switch to this one. So switch between this and this if you want to go depending on what you're running. Ascendancies. It's gonna be quite simple here. We're gonna go for our accuracy. Let's see if he actually wrote up which preferred order he wanted. Yes, so this is probably better to show you then. We can go for the added accuracy here, and then so zoom in, added accuracy, which will be all the accuracy we need in this build, and we will get some gain accuracy rating equal to your strength, which we already told you. We have so much strength, almost 500 strength, so that is insanely good. Then we were gonna go for unflinching, which is gaining our endurance charges. Why is this going? And we're going for unbreakable next, some extra life regen and some other stuff here. And unyielding lastly is not super important, but it gains us a little bit endurance charges and some other goodies and some other damage nodes. One thing I want to talk about especially is Righteous Fire and Val Righteous Fire. So if we can go into this. So every time I'm playing this, I have Righteous Fire on. You don't need to, but it's just gonna give you an extra boost. Obviously it does its own damage, pretty decent, and Val Righteous Fire do even more. But if we take a look at Discharge and Arc, so if we go to our skills and then we click off these, right now this is our average hit. Remember, we're doing so many hits per second, so this doesn't tell us very much. You can see on my example, we do plenty for bosses. So if I enable only Righteous Fire here, it goes up by 40% about. So it goes from 37 to 53. And if we hit Val Righteous Fire, it goes up to 73. So that is 100% increase in damage almost. That is like insanely good. So when we come to bosses, I just hit Val Righteous Fire and then start to spin on his head. So that means you will have Righteous Fire and Val Righteous Fire, which stack on top of each other, both dealing damage and boosting your arc and discharge at the same time. And with Elemental Weakness hitting, you have the spinning blades on Blade Vortex hitting them, so you have extra from Elemental Equilibrium, and then you have also Elemental Overload going up. You are doing tons of damage to bosses. Map mods you can play around with. I have only encountered one that I cannot do at this moment. I do not think at this moment, and with the gear we have now set up, that I can play this one. It's Elemental Reflect. It's the only mod we cannot play for obvious reasons. And if you're doing no regen maps or something like that, do not hit Righteous Fire. I use Righteous Fire for clearing also, by the way. If you do Temporal Chains, I highly recommend to have one of these Warding Flasks, which is removes curses on use, which means during his whole effect of this flask, we have no Temporal Chains, so you can freely walk around and run around as much as you want in this. Yeah, and as you can see, we are moving pretty fast. We're spinning on top of things, and we're healing super fast, and as you can see, we're degenning a little bit, from Righteous Fire, but that is fine. And we don't even need to, so if you see me now, I don't even hit, I don't even hit Cyclone. And now I hit these, and it's lagging. And why is he moving? This is the worst boss to show this on. And I do not think I missed anything on this guide. So if you have any questions or anything that you want to add to this, feel free to write a comment, or even better, talk to Rico. It's his build and I've just modified it to my likings. So thank you for watching this, and I will see you later.